Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first official episode of the podcast by Kurdistan Accrediting Association for Education, or KAAE. My name is Vida Hanna, and I'm the Chief of Planning and Effectiveness at the Catholic University in Erbil, where I focus on institutional development and quality assurance in higher education. And for today, I am your host. In this episode, we'll explore what accreditation means for the Kurdistan region, how KAAE standards are shaping the future of education, and how institutional quality is central to academic excellence and public trust. Today, we're honored to be joined by Dr. Lee Bash, a distinguished member of the Board of Trustees for KAAE and an international expert in higher education and accreditation. Dr. Lee, thank you very much for joining us today.
Vida, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
To start, could you please share a little bit about your experience and your journey in higher education and accreditation?
Certainly, I'd be glad to. My background was originally in music when I got a PhD, and to begin with, I was like many faculty members who was just learning what it meant to be a professor at an institution. But in about 2000, I got involved with accreditation for the first time. I became a peer reviewer and learned a little bit more about accreditation, and I found it to be a very exciting opportunity because what I learned, I was able to bring back to my own institution, and that really helped them as well. And all the aspects of accreditation I eventually learned were empowering and were particularly helpful to not just my institution, but other institutions. And I just felt a calling to continue to do that work.
Wow, that's really wonderful. Your extensive experience in accreditation and your passion to music that brought you into higher education and accreditation, it's very impressive.
So there's a link there, actually. As a musician, you're constantly practicing to get better. And what I found was that it actually carried over very well into higher education, which is what accreditation is all about. Constantly seeking ways to improve.
That is very correct. Dr. Lee, for those who may be hearing about KAAE for the first time, how would you describe the role of KAAE in education and in the Kurdistan region?
Well, first of all, it's very exciting. This is an early stage as far as KAAE is concerned, but for there to be an accrediting agency in Kurdistan suggests that standards will increase and that there will be certifiable quality that is actually observed and obtained by the accreditation process. So institutions will all of a sudden be able to demonstrate that they are living up to a certain standard.
And based on your international experience, can you explain how KAAE standards are aligned with international accreditation models as Middle States Commission for Higher Education, MSCHE, or New England Commission for Higher Education, NACHE?
So in the United States, there are 7 regional accreditors, and each of those accreditors has slightly different standards. But if you really examine them closely, you'll find that just like KAAE, the range of numbers of standards will be from, say, 5 to 9. But when you look more closely, you see that they're all of them looking for the same kinds of things. So KAAE has 7 standards and a number of substandards, but they deal with just exactly the same kinds of issues. They start with mission, they look at governance, they're very concerned about the institution's ability to demonstrate how learning is taking place and the quality of learning. There's issues about the students. There's also issues about the finance, that there's stability and sustainability for the institution. It's an all-encompassing approach to demonstrating for the institution that they live up to a high standard.
So, Dr. Lee, you talked about the challenges that the students would be facing or the institutions would be facing. At the moment, many institutions for education and higher education in the Kurdistan region are still developing their internal control systems, their internal policies. What are some of the challenges and opportunities that you've observed that institutions might face or will face in the future?
Certainly. To begin with, institutions are asked to consider their mission. And the mission is almost always, as far as I can think of, they're always, in fact, the first consideration for any accreditation standards. And the reason for that is it informs everything else. Once the institution has taken some time to determine who are we, what are we all about, what's important to us, how do we envision our future, where are we going, who do we want to serve? These are really essential foundation questions that as the institution answers those, it informs every other part of their operation. It informs who the students are they're going to serve, what's unique and distinctive about them. It also reflects all the other things that are important to the institution. And the main part that I think is most exciting in all is this is organic. This is not static. It doesn't just have an institution having like a snapshot today and that's who the institution is, but it's ongoing. The institution is going to continue to develop, and as they work through accreditation, the accreditation helps them to be able to continue to move forward and to be able to be a different institution in the future based on their efforts to continue to improve. So continuous improvement, quality, these are essential parts of the accreditation experience.
And that being said, how do you think KAAE can support these schools and institutions throughout the process?
Well, so KAAE is going to provide structure, and it's going to provide some directions. It's going to help the institutions to ask the really important, essential questions. And then, of course, they're going to answer those questions according to who that institution is. What's unique and distinctive about it? This is not a cookie cutter approach. This is not something that every institution is going to have exactly the same answers. They're going to have to answer the questions according to who they are. And that's why the discussion about mission is so important to begin with, because it informs virtually everything they do after that. So they'll have different answers, but KAAE is going to provide the structure so that they are able to systematically go through and look at these issues and answer them according to who they are.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Lee, we've been talking and mentioning the standards of KAAE since the beginning of the episode. Can you tell us a little bit about what are the core themes or guiding principles that institutions should focus on when approaching KAAE?
So the important part here is that the accreditation experience, KAAE is not looking for perfection. What they're really looking for is, to begin with, is to take a sort of a snapshot of the moment. That is to say, where is the institution as we go through the accreditation process? But it's also to say, where can we go from here? And the accreditors help the institution answer that question. They do this in some ways by demonstrations and by seminars. They provide people with expertise that helps the institution. It really is like a partnership that instead of KAAE setting up standards and then saying you failed at this or you're not where you need to be about that, as though there's something wrong with the institution. It's we take the institutions where they are and then we work with them to bring that institution to a higher level. So this is continuous improvement. This is helping the institution with experts so that the institution can become the best it can possibly be.
And in terms of when any institution is, as we said, is approaching KAAE, what kind of documentation they need to provide in order to prove to KAAE that they are moving along the process and they're approaching to be accredited by KAAE?
Vida, that's a really great question, because part of the process involves evidence. It's not enough for the institution to say, this is what we're doing, and expect KAAE to take that answer as proof just based on the word alone. So they have to demonstrate by using various forms of evidence. In some cases, it's minutes to meetings. In some cases, it's decisions that have been made by the board or by the institution. There are many forms of evidence, but the narrative, which is the part that the institution fills out to answer those questions, is a small part of what the entire process is about. The institution provides evidence, and then once all of that is taken care of, they submit it to KAAE in this particular case, and then KAAE will have a series of evaluators who read the document and then come into the institution and talk with people to find out just exactly what's happening. Let me go back to mission for a second because it's a perfect example. I've done some visits. I've actually done 65 visits in the United States. So I've had lots and lots of visits. And the institutional response to those visits is different. Some of them, everybody has sort of memorized their mission and they just say it, but it doesn't necessarily mean anything to them. It's just something that they've memorized. The really good institutions look at their mission and put it in their own words. And if you talk to the various people from the institution and you say, tell me about your mission, they tell you. And usually what they capture is their passion about that institution. This is what makes this institution special to me. That's how their answer comes through. So it's a very exciting thing, which is true across the board as far as the accreditation process is concerned. The really well-prepared institutions are not the least bit threatened by any of this. They see this as a positive, and they want to use this to help them become the best they can.
So KAAE is not it's not a guiding principle that says you are a good university, you're not a good university or a school. Basically, it helps these institutions to get to a point where they can provide high standards of high quality of education.
That's right.
to their students.
Yes. So it becomes a partnership between KAAE and the school. And it's a sort of partnership that is designed to be of assistance. It's not to trip anybody up or to make judgments as though they're not good enough. That's not the intention in any way whatsoever. It actually ultimately is the rising tide that lifts all ships. That's what accreditation does.
That's a great metaphor for how KAAE, the role of KAAE would be in education in the Kurdistan region.
Thank you.
Dr. Lee, as you know, change involves various challenges. And based on your experience, what's the most important mindset shift institutions need to make when preparing for KAAE or for accreditation in general?
Yeah, it's pretty confusing for institutions who have never encountered accreditation before. What's this all about? And frankly, many people are going to resent it initially. They're going to feel as though that's not what I'm at this institution for. If they're faculty members, many times they say, I'm supposed to be teaching. I'm not supposed to be doing all this other stuff. It may feel like busy work to them. They may resent it for other reasons. It may feel just like an imposition, but ultimately, as they go through the process, and this is very much about process, as they go through those processes, they begin to understand the benefits that they accrue from going through this process. But it takes time, and it takes patience. It takes patience and perseverance. Ultimately, the successful institutions are the ones that continue to press on and to do the things that are expected and see it as a benefit. If they embrace the accreditation, it'll go well for them, and in the long run, they will be the beneficiaries.
That's great. So looking ahead now, as KAAE continues to grow, what do you envision for its role in the next few years for K through 12 education and also higher education in the region?
Sure. I can't say as much about K through 12 other than I believe in the process and that any institution that goes through this process will benefit from it. But what I envision in the future is if we can think of the schools that are participating, for instance, in the pilot right now, such as your institution, they're going to be the baseline. They're going to be at a place where institutions that have gone through this pilot will be able to say, this is the standard. But what will happen as more and more schools do it, and as they share the information, and as more of the schools provide peer reviewers who then go into other schools and observe what other schools are doing, and all of a sudden find out that what their school is, the way they're doing things is not the only way to do things. And it's not necessarily that somebody's good and someone's not good, but it's one of those things that sort of enriches and expands, and all institutions benefit from that experience.
So basically, the standards of KAAE will become, in the future, the norm for schools to adapt when opening a new department, when even establishing a school or an institution of higher education.
That's absolutely right, Vida.
Great. And for my final question for today, what message would you share with institutions in the Kurdistan region as they begin their accreditation journey?
Well, I've already said it, but I think it really needs repeating. And, don't feel threatened about this process in any way whatsoever. See this as an opportunity. See this as a benefit, and understand that what you're really doing is helping to build Kurdistan to be a richer educational resource than ever before.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you, Dr. Lee, for joining us today on our first KAAE podcast, and for sharing your insights on accreditation and higher education in the Kurdistan region.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this.
Thank you. And thank you for our listeners for tuning in. Stay connected with KAAE on our website and social media for upcoming events, trainings, and new episodes. I am Vida Hanna, and this has been Quality in Focus, where we highlight how quality education builds a stronger future for the Kurdistan region. Have a good day.